Hello everyone and welcome back to another Canadian Politics Explained video, and in today's video we're going to be going over how the Conservatives' new climate plan could save their chances in the next election. So with the budget coming out tomorrow as of me making this video, there's a chance that an election could be held as soon as this summer, so most likely June would be the date if the budget ends up failing, but obviously we don't know if it will fail until the budget is released and members of parliament vote on it. So, recently, about 2 days ago, the Conservative Party under Erin O'Toole released their new climate plan. And in this new climate plan that was released, the Conservative Party, at least Erin O'Toole, who most likely had a leading role in writing this plan, they agreed that carbon pricing is one of the most effective ways to combat climate change, because a lot of climate change actually happens because of big corporations emitting carbon dioxide into the air in their factories, which often can't really be stopped by any other measure than government restrictions. And a good way of doing this is obviously carbon pricing. So basically here, as you can see by this article, Erin O'Toole avoided using the word carbon tax because obviously that has a bad connotation associated with it in the Conservative base. But basically he did say that carbon pricing is going to be the best way to reduce climate change. So this shows us that whoever wins the election, there will likely be some sort of carbon pricing scheme in place. So if the Conservatives are elected, this will most likely be a lower price than if the Liberals are re-elected under the current carbon tax. But this could save the Conservative Party, because right now they're being seen, especially after voting down a pledge, to put a pledge into their party document that climate change is real and that it needs to be addressed. So this kind of renewed the Conservatives being called by the Liberals, NDP, and Green Party that they are just a whole bunch of climate change denying people. But now, after this announcement, this shows that the Conservative Party is leaning towards taking a stronger stance on climate change, unlike what Andrew Scheer did in 2019, when he said that the carbon tax should be completely removed and that other measures, like encouraging people to use renewable energy, such as solar panels, was the best way to combat climate change. And this message obviously did not work, as they lost the last election. This messaging may have worked in Western Canada, where their support was already high. As you can see, they were able to increase their support in Western Canada, BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, not so much Manitoba. But this is where this message may have resonated, as these provinces, especially Alberta and Saskatchewan, their economies are very reliant on oil. So carbon pricing obviously will hurt the economies of these provinces to some extent. The carbon tax hasn't been in place for long enough to see this effect. So the Conservative provinces of Alberta and Saskatchewan, and to some extent BC, did vote to the right of what they did in 2015. As this climate message coming from Andrew Scheer and dissatisfaction with the carbon tax definitely increased support for Andrew Scheer in this part of the country. However, in Ontario, Quebec, and basically the entire East, they definitely did not gain anything from taking this harsh of a stance on the carbon tax, because as you can see, they only gained one seat in Ontario off of the Liberals, because the Liberals had 80 in the previous election. And in Quebec, they still were not able to make many gains at all. So this climate messaging definitely did not resonate with some of the more moderate provinces, you could say, as a whole. Because just a lot of voters there do think that the carbon tax, or at least the idea of it, is good. So this, for those who believe in these provinces, Ontario and Quebec, that the carbon tax from the Liberals is too high, they take too much of a percentage from employers and companies. The Conservative plan offers a pretty significant alternative that is not completely removing the carbon tax, but just shrinking it so it has less of an effect on these companies. So this definitely will help the Conservative Party, at least to some extent, because it's more action than they've ever pledged to take on climate change. for a very long time. As I said, Andrew Scheer in 2019 did not support any type of carbon pricing, and before that, Stephen Harper definitely did not support that. So I found this article in the Edmonton Journal the other day. This is an opinion letter, David Staples, from David Staples. And as you can see, it does say it is a political gamble here. But the thing is, the Conservatives are betting that they will be able to win over some of these voters who are turned off by their lack of inaction on climate change. Last election, polls showed that climate change was one of the most important issues that Canadians thought that Canadians were going to vote off of, basically. So, and the Conservatives' weak stance on climate change definitely did not help them win any more seats. And obviously, climate change is less of an important issue now because of COVID-19's prevalence. But now the Conservatives are trying to take a stance on climate change, even though COVID-19 is one of the major issues in Canada right now, or the biggest issue, really, based on these rising case counts. As you can see, they have kind of flattened as lockdowns, and increased vaccinations have managed to stem the spread a little bit, but it's still an important issue. So the Conservatives are taking a gamble on this climate change issue, as they have a more, I guess, liberal, if you want to use that word, climate plan than they ever had, basically. So with this, they're trying to learn from their mistakes in 2019, where they had a weaker climate plan in the eyes of a lot of Canadians. So now they're trying to win over more moderate voters, especially on the issue of climate change, so they can pick up some seats in Ontario and Quebec. So I have said this before, but as you can see here, Ontario is one of the most important provinces, well, actually the most important province in Canada in terms of federal elections, just because they have so many seats. And whoever has had the most seats in Ontario in the past 3 elections, probably farther than that, I actually haven't checked that, but either way, in the last 3 elections, whoever's won the most seats in Ontario has won the government. In 2011, Stephen Harper was able to win 73 seats in Ontario, which is significantly more than any other party. And in 2008, the Conservatives were also able to win the most seats in Ontario. Although this wasn't as defying of a majority, I guess, if you want to use that word, they still were able to win the most seats there. 2006, similar thing, except it was pretty close, but the Liberals were able to win the most seats despite losing the government to Stephen Harper. This is mostly because of weakness in other areas of the country, especially BC, where they were only able to win 9 seats, and they were only able to win 5 seats outside in the rest of Western Canada, including Manitoba. So, yeah, basically, I've gone over this before, but Ontario, if you want to win the government, you need to be able to win the most seats in Ontario. Now, this climate plan definitely will swing a lot of these ridings to the Conservatives, just because, as I said before, people have been turned off by their climate stance, especially recently. But now, this more aggressive climate plan is definitely going to shake up the dynamic a little bit more, and is going to turn less voters off, because the Conservatives are being seen as these climate change denying people and just the party as a whole, even if their local MP or candidate doesn't believe that. But this climate plan definitely will decrease the stigma against the party as a whole. So in the Canada poll tracker here, this has not been updated, so we'll have to wait like a few weeks, not a few weeks, but probably like a week or 2 in order to see this effect, the effect that this climate plan will have. And it is pretty obvious that this is a pretty big gamble, as they've never done this before. But as you can see in this thing here, a lot of Canadians do have a desire for change. As you can see, the total desire for change is very high, with a total of about 65% of people wanting change in Canada. And this is good for the Conservatives' climate plan, as it is a change from the norm for the Conservative Party, especially, as they're usually seen as the party with less aggressive action on climate change than the Liberals are, at least in recent years. Obviously, this isn't true for all of history, but this and also the minor parties, including the NDP, will most likely lose support or stay the same, really, just because a lot of people who voted for the NDP last election likely will not switch their vote away from the NDP, just because the NDP climate plan is more aggressive than Justin Trudeau's. So they'll likely think that the Conservative climate plan is way too little, and they will not switch off of the NDP. The Bloc Québécois basically is not a one-issue party totally, but it's based around one issue, obviously Quebec sovereignty. So obviously support will not waver for the Bloc Québécois because of this issue. Green Party support may go down a little bit, but it's already at a fairly low level, so it probably will not go down much farther than it is right now. So the main change will be between the Liberals and the Conservatives. So overall, like I said before, this is a huge gamble, and this could easily go bad for the Conservatives. But in my view, this is a good thing for the Conservatives, as they will be able to win more support in Ontario, as well as being able to, I guess, consolidate their support that they currently have in Alberta, because people likely will not vote for the Liberals because the carbon tax is very hated among Conservatives in Western Canada. So that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.